Welcome to the Black and White Podcast.
I'm Matt.
And as much as it hurts me to admit this, my name is Dave, and I was wrong about Radiant Black.
Okay.
That's it. That's my opening stance
on
the topic at hand. I was wrong.
This is going to be a really quick episode. I mean, I'm good with that pretty much.
Look, I mean, this is something that you have brought up before on this podcast. You have said things to me like, I don't listen to your recommendation. I think that's in one of the early episodes. I think those words came out of your mouth. Like, I think that there's been some low key shade thrown my way that I don't take recommendations much as I should. You brought it up on one of those little bite-sized things that we do on TikTok. Talk about Dave doesn't read Daredevil. I do. It's a thing. It's a thing, and I'm gonna start off by saying I was wrong and you were right. It's a good comic.
So I feel like you're trying to diffuse how I'm about to go nuclear on you a little bit there. But no, I really
strategy to this. I don't know.
Yes, I've been gassing you up that I'm going to go full nuclear, but I'm really not. I'm happy that you are conceding or admitting that this is a good comic because I think it is something that you will enjoy. That's why I pushed it so hard. I push a lot of things. I definitely do push a lot and say there's some recommendations of things you should read, but I really pushed this one hard because I wasn't understanding why you didn't enjoy it. Maybe not as much as me, but I just didn't know why it didn't click for you.
I'll explain it. I can explain it, and we'll get to that, I think. But first, before we get too deep into this, I think maybe you should set the stage a little bit for like what this book is, what it's about, why it hooked you. I don't know, because sure. I can't be the one to do that because it didn't hook me the first time I tried. It just didn't.
All right, so I've kind of been doing a little bit of thinking about this, and for one, you're going to hear me and Dave's biblical canon series Invincible referenced again in this episode.
Sure will.
And I've been doing a lot of thinking about like how we even cover Invincible in this show. Like, I don't know if we completely like reread the series, which is something I've wanted to do. I know there's a TV show now, and I know we have talked about reviewing that at some point, but whatever. Invincible, once again, is a very important comic book to me and Dave. The reason Radiant Black hooked me so much was because I really got Invincible vibes from this series. The first issue I read it. The opening like page is, well, overall, Radiant Black it's a superhero comic ultimately. And it's about, and this started with the first opening page. It's a guy named Nathan, who moves back to Lockport, Illinois, I believe,
suburb of Chicago.
Lockport, Illinois. He moves back to Lockport, Illinois.
It's a suburb of Chicago?
So. Yeah, I believe so. He's a down on his luck writer. He kind of has writer's block, and he's struggling with that. So he moves back home with his parents. And from there, spoilers, he gets extraterrestrial powers. But why I think it connected with me, and much like Invincible, which I really like, and why I like Robert Kirkman as a writer, is it's just very relatable. The first page, he is pretty much driving Uber or Lyft because he's struggling as a writer, and he's having like an existential financial crisis because he's taken a lot of money out.
I don't think it's existential. I think it is very much.
He's having a straight up crisis.
Existential.
It's existential. He's having a existential crisis because he's like $30,000 in debt, has no money, doesn't know where to go, and like breaks down in the car in front of these people. And like that was like the first scene of this comic. And I love superheroes and I love things getting punched in the face, but human stories connect. I have definitely been in that position, financially, been in a lot of debt, don't know what to do. So like that when I read that, I was like, oh man, I feel this comic book, and it's about him. The first arc is really about him and his other friend Marshall, who's like his buddy back home that's working at the video store. And Marshall he's kind of an asshole. He says a lot of asshole-ish stuff, but is ultimately there for Nathan and is his best friend and encourages him along the way. So Nathan gets the superpowers. Marshall is just there as the buddy and is just like, well, you should do this. You should start a social media account. You should do this. This is your costume. Like he's just his like tag along buddy. And there's a major cliffhanger in issue number 4.
Isn't it? I think it's 5. I think it's issue 5. I think there's 1 and 4 and 5. I think they're both cliffhangers. I read it in trade, so I don't know.
Issue 4 is definitely the one. It's this issue right here because I took a picture and I was like, Dave, have you read Radiant Black 4? And I remember that conversation. So I know where I was at when I read that issue. I was sitting upstairs in my one small couch chair. I know exactly what happened. There is another cliffhanger in 5. You were correct about that. But the one I'm referencing is 4. Okay. But yeah, the human moments of this series hooked me that a series like Invincible hasn't. Like it was superhero-y like Invincible, and it had that human side. So that's why it kind of like hit it off with me from the start.
Okay.
The fantastic art by Marco Costa does not hurt either. The art is fantastic.
Fantastic. Absolutely. I tweeted out something from volume 1 this week because it's like my favorite piece of art in the entire first volume.
Yeah. He's no Ryan Otley, but he's,
but who is?
He's right. But damn good art, like real good art.
I agree. So I love that you immediately connected to this comic, and I mean I love anytime someone connects with a comic and feels passionately about that. And you really like you badgered me into trying this comic the first time I tried it. Like, let's not mince words here. Like, I got beat down. I was told that I would love it and that I better read it, or else the friendship was over. It was the friendship on the line. Dave reads Radiant Black, or Dave looks for a new best friend. That's essentially how this was broken down for me at one point last year. The way I remember it. I don't know. I could be misremembering things. I don't know.
I don't think it was that harsh, but
felt like a threat.
I don't know if it was a threat. I will say, on May 30th, if you scroll back to your text conversations, we had a very interesting dialogue where I was like, Dave, did you read Radiant Black issue number 4? And you were like, no, I didn't get my books yet, or like, yeah, something like that. And I'm like, you did read it. And I was like, did you enjoy it? And you're like, yeah, you're kind of like matter of fact. And my response to you, I apologize, children listening, was drop the bitch, aka drop the series. And you were like, oh, I want to keep going. I'll give it another issue. My next response was drop the bitch. And that was just all I kept saying. That was my reply to you the whole night. And then it just ended up with like a good night. And that's how we left the conversation. So
I don't remember that as detailed as you do, but I believe that it happened.
I have the receipts. So I won't say our friendship was going to end, but clearly that day I was a little upset that you weren't feeling the series as much as I was.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just wanted, go
do you want to know why I didn't really like it?
I'll finish my one point. The one thing too that like why I just wanted maybe us to connect on this series was like, I remember you talking about Invincible, like how you have got Invincible from the beginning. And I was like, dude, like, this is it. Like, we can get on this together and like ride this out for as long
now
as
you're now you're tugging on the heartstrings, man.
No, but
you're
like
you're going like, deep now.
Yeah, no, I wanted to be on that journey with my guy, like it was superhero-y, it was grounded. I think Kyle Higgins is a really good writer. From most of the stuff I've read, the Power Ranger stuff, his Nightwing run at DC, like most of the stuff I've read by him I've enjoyed, and I really like this series. So I'm like, well, if we can both get on the ground floor, let's see where this goes.
Well, episode's over. I feel like shit now. I'm gonna go cry myself to sleep. Let my guy down. So I will say, initially, I think the expectations may have been set a little too high for me. And the words invincible being thrown around, all of a sudden, like, set the bar to unattainable levels, potentially, I think. I was reading it, and I read the first couple issues, and I was like, when does it feel like Invincible? Like, it never really captured that Invincible feel to me. And because of that, it was very hard for me to relate to that comic because I kept waiting for and this is probably my fault for setting my expectations too high, but I did some research before we started recording when we decided we were going to do this episode, and even on the Image Comics website, like the first blurb about Radiant Black is for fans of Invincible, and I don't necessarily agree with that assessment. I actually don't. I think that it is similar to Invincible in a sense that they're both superhero comics set in their own tiny little connected world, published by Image Comics. But I feel like that is really where the comparisons end for me. I don't see Invincible to be anything like this comic and vice versa, other than those sort of very basic, high level comparison points.
I mean,
that's one man's opinion. It's one man's opinion.
I think they're coming at it probably from like the superhero coming of age story, rediscovering your powers.
But is that what this book is about? I know I only read the first volume, and I read the first couple issues. I read 7 and 8 too so far as I'm trying to catch up. And man, are we gonna talk about some of the stuff that happens in the first volume? Like, are we gonna spoil anything?
Yeah, I really, because I know like some of our peers might want to read this, so like I'm going to tiptoe around. I don't like to full out spoil things if I can, especially like issue 4. Like, but whatever. I mean, it's your show, man. You do what you want.
Well, it's our show. It's not my show.
I mean,
there's 2 people right now. We call ourselves co-hosts.
Well,
I think that implies equal ownership.
Where the conversation takes us. I mean, if you want to spoil it, you can.
I mean, I don't want to spoil it. I think that, and I do really like Kyle Higgins. I do, but man, some of his storytelling decisions in this first arc just did not vibe with me at all. I would have done so much different, and that sounds like a stupid thing to say because I'm not a comic book professional. But I think, and again, this is just through the lens of like my personal enjoyment of a comic and what would have hooked me and got me on instantly. I would have started the comic with issue number 6. That would have been the first issue of Radiant Black.
Okay.
That was Satomi's story. Yeah. That was Satomi's story. That one, I think that was a super weird way to end the first volume of the trade. The first arc of the comic.
I agree.
That was it felt disjointed, but it was also the first time that I actually felt a connection to the comic because of Satomi's backstory. That was more relatable to me than anything that was happening with Nathan and Marshall.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
And God, dude, by the, I read the first couple issues and then I stopped, and then like you beat me up about it. So then I reread 1 and 2, and I read 3 and 4 again before like last year. So I read the first 2 issues 3 times. This third time through just now for this episode on my catch up. Man, I like Nathan less and less every time I go back to these. by this third read, I was just like, dude, this guy sucks. Like, get on with it, because I'm not interested in this dude whatsoever.
Wow. Why do you like Satomi so much?
It's a more interesting story. It
is an interesting story.
Her entire life is uprooted twice by forces outside of her control. First her relationship to her fiance, and then
the all-winner squad. He's on the all-winner squad, that guy.
Yeah. First that, and then like she gets what she gets.
Yeah.
And that uproots her life again in a couple different ways. Like, it sets her down a path that you're like, why are you doing this? Like, you seemed like a good person. I don't know, man. It's just the conflict and the emotional connection that I felt to her story was much, much stronger versus anything that happened with Nathan and Marshall in the first 5 issues.
No, I think that she I like the ending where it was just like she's going to be a provider. That's kind of how I took it. Like, this dude was beating her down and taking control of her life, and she's like, nah, dude, like, I got this now. And that was kind of like the end of her story. And I did like that. I agree with you. Like, I was even thinking when I read it through this time, and I remember that issue was just like disjointed. Like, it was just like, like you said, like, why is this even in here? One, I didn't particularly love the art, but I thought the story was like very strong. I would like in the trade, I would probably put this after issue number 1, like, or something. I don't know, because I don't
It
know.
felt weird where it was. I can tell you that. But I think
No,
that,
yeah, it definitely felt weird
and
where it was.
I understand. I think that, again, I don't like to, especially with creator owned stuff, I don't like to go and kind of critique the writer's decisions because he's telling the story he wants to tell the way he wants to tell it. I
Yeah,
feel kind of like he decided before even writing the arc that like he wanted to do the issue 4 cliffhanger.
yep,
Like that curveball had to be in the book,
yep,
and he wanted to do the Satomi story and couldn't figure out where to put it. So just
yeah,
got kicked to the end. Because I
that makes
think the
sense.
scene where she gets her powers,
Yeah,
God, if you put that in issue 1, I would have been way more invested than the surprise reveal I got at the end of issue 5.
got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like if the slow burn on, oh, he got these powers. Oh, there was a red one. Oh,
yeah,
no, it's just that just didn't work for me. And again, that just could be me personally.
yeah. So like, um, let's just say like the major spoiler I think we should avoid is issue 4, because I think you need to read that yourself. Um, Ultimately, this book, when issue 5 rolls around, my first thought when I read it was like, am I reading a Power Rangers book now? And I don't know how I feel about that, because ultimately, Nathan gets these powers. I guess he's the Radiant Black, but there's all kinds of different Radiants across the different spectrums, and that's kind of what the first arc is. And I don't feel like we're necessarily spoiling anything, because on the trade paperback you see all the Radiants
Yeah.
shooting up in the sky in
Yeah.
different colors. So I was like, I don't really think like that's like too much of a crazy spoiler. It is like the journey to get there, though. But there is an issue.
Can I interject something real quickly?
Sure, yes, absolutely.
Going back to the way that the Image Comics website pitches this book.
It
Not
says
only does
Power
it
Rangers.
say for fans of Invincible and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are the Image has decided that is, and I didn't Kyle Higgins have a pretty long run on
He
Power Rangers
did.
for Boom
Yeah,
too. So I mean,
yeah.
like, is anyone surprised?
I
probably
was
probably shouldn't be.
I was surprised but not shocked. Like I wasn't shocked. I was like, oh, but like
No, I mean
it
like
was,
surprised by the reveal, yes, but like
yeah.
surprised that Kyle Higgins is writing a Power Rangers
Oh
esque
no,
book. Like, no,
no.
like okay, like I get you like the Power Rangers, bro. You wrote a lot of those comics before doing this.
Yeah, when I think about it, I'm like, oh, this should be like a Power Ranger. I should have saw it coming. Like at the end of the first issue, there's 2 Radiants. Like I should have known that. But yeah, let's just say Nathan gets he's off the board for a little bit, so a different person has to step in. We'll leave it at that.
I
And I
mean,
think
unless you've read the Supermassive one shot, then you know what happened.
exactly, and that's like I still think reading that issue 4 is like pretty impactful. But long story short, his buddy has to step up, and I can definitely see where you're like Nathan kind of sucks. And as you keep reading, I think you'll end up liking Marshall more and more. And like this
I
read
already
through,
do.
yeah,
I
like
already do.
this read through, like it hit me even more, because it was like I kind of knew it was well, I knew it was coming, and Marshall has that like air of irresponsibility, that early Peter Parker brashness, and he doesn't understand the responsibility. And it was like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing now, and I get it a little bit more.
I actually have that written down in my notes. Is that Marshall kind of sucks, and it makes that issue 4 twist, a little bit more uncomfortable. I don't
Yeah,
I don't want to use the word better because I don't think it was better. Because
yeah,
I was like this time through, I'm like, so I don't like Nathan all that much anymore. I really don't like Marshall as he exists in this first arc. Why am I reading this comic? Like I don't like these characters, but I'm invested because
interesting.
of Supermassive.
Okay,
That one shot is why I'm back on Radiant Black.
you're gonna. I read it. You're gonna have to refresh my memory. Like, why did you love that so much?
Uh, because of the version of Marshall that's in that.
Okay.
That and the way, and honestly, like kind of like I really liked the Rogue Sun
Yeah, you
Radiant Black
did.
interaction in
Yeah,
Supermassive. I thought that was really really great. And then in Rogue Sun #1, that away from me too. But
yeah,
it's fine, whatever.
yeah.
I'm sure
So
one of the characters that I like will stick around
yeah.
in
So
this
there.
little universe we're building here.
So yeah, they're. I mean, this might also be a fact of it. Like we've talked about in previous episodes, we're looking for a tight continuity, shared superhero universe. Well, that's what they're doing over at Image. And Supermassive was a one-shot issue. I think 7.99, pretty thick, but introduces another character called Rogue Sun.
5.99. Thank you very
Five
much.
beautiful 5.99, even better. Um, that introduces two other characters into the quote unquote Radiant Black universe. So
I think it's called. I
we're
think they're actually referring to it as the Supermassive
the
universe.
Supermassive
I think
universe.
that's the
Okay.
imprint. It's the Supermassive universe.
Okay.
Because
So
you got Radiant Black, Radiant Red, Rogue Sun, and then the person whose name I can't remember, something
Inferno
else
Girl.
red. Inferno Girl, not red.
Inferno Girl.
Fire's red. That's
Yeah.
why my brain was at, I guess.
So
But Inferno Girl's getting her own like OGN in the fall too.
absolutely. So we're getting there. But yeah, I really enjoyed this series. I don't know.
Yeah, I like it too. I mean, I think it's fun. I think it's a fun superhero comic. I'm interested to see where it goes and when I'm going to get some more Rogue Sun crossover. I'm still, I'm like one issue behind on Rogue Sun. I just got the most recent issue Monday. No, Friday. I don't know what today's Monday, so I guess I got it Friday.
You probably got it Friday.
I haven't read it yet, but I think there's something that's interesting enough to keep reading. And I have all the Radiant Blacks through #14. I just ordered 15,
Good.
and I ordered the Radiant Red stuff that's out. I ordered issue 5. I pre-ordered issue 5. So once Radiant Black, I think it's Radiant Black 16 or 15 comes out, and then Radiant Red 3 and 4 come out, I can order those from Lone Star, and then I'm caught up and I'm current.
That's awesome. Awesome. You kind of so Supermassive got you like you kind of went all in after that. You're like you read that and you were like,
I was
think
like,
I gotta give
okay,
this a shot.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Maybe I was wrong about Radiant Black.
So no,
Maybe I was wrong.
that's okay. It's
I do
okay.
think Rogue Sun I'm enjoying a whole lot more than Radiant Black. I will say that.
I need to reread. I'll probably reread that Supermassive one shot, but definitely Rogue Sun #1 because I haven't. I read the first one, but I haven't read the other. I think I have 3 of them, so I need to
I
read
think there's
those.
only 4 out so far, I think.
Okay, so I'm not too far behind, but I can get
No.
caught up on that quickly. So
I think honestly, I think Rogue Sun is maybe a little bit more like Invincible
Invincible.
than Radiant Black. I don't know. Too early to tell, maybe.
Interesting. Yeah, man. There's just. I love it. Those conversations, just I don't know. That conversation he has with his dad, dude. Like I don't know why that just reminded me of Invincible so much, but that really like took me in just that conversation and that
Over breakfast?
awkwardness over breakfast where his dad's just like, you got to get a job. And he's like, well, I want to be a writer. And he's like, that's great. You're writing. Like how much, what is that paying you? Like people, I've had that conversation. Not so
It
with my
makes you
dad, with
wonder.
my wife has had that conversation. Like, where's the money? Like I've had that conversation before.
Makes
So
you wonder
that's
if Kyle Higgins has had that conversation before too.
Oh, he's definitely had that. You can tell he's had that conversation, how he wrote it.
Little autobiographical at points, I
Yeah.
think.
And it was just like, that's how it starts. Then there's shenanigans that goes on. And his dad's like, you should keep doing the ride share thing. And then at the end, he like has some adventuring, does the ride share thing, and he gets like a big bonus. And his dad's like, you get extra raisins today in his cereal. Like, and it's like, that proves that like his dad's not just like an asshole. Like he's a parent. Like he's looking out for his son. And it's just like I feel like that just that issue connected with me. I connected with a lot of these issues.
Wasn't he lying about doing the rideshare thing once he moved back
Was he?
home?
I thought he was doing.
I thought he said that the night that he was out all night when he got the costume, and he just like
Yeah,
he was referring to like the Radiant Black costume as like the bonus.
Yeah,
maybe I read too into that.
No. That happened. That did happen. That was the beginning of that conversation because he was like, I was out all night or whatever. But like, he does the rideshare thing because he's trying to get information to find
Radiant Red. Yeah, that's right. You're right. So
he's doing a lot of driving around, and then he gets like a really big tip.
I mixed those two up. Sorry.
But no, it was the same issue though. No, that was the same issue. But yeah. So gosh, I love it, man. I need to kind of reread some of it. Like, this is one of those things that we talk about. I need to like, I guess with this, I just need to keep reading it every month because I have let a couple of them pile up. So I've kind of forgot what was going on. But the Supermassive Universe, I think I'm going to, every month, I'm just going to read them when they come out because I do enjoy it.
Yeah, so, you know, I've noticed the longer I'm in the hobby and the more I read, when, you know, Marvel, we've talked about how we love the Marvel recap in the beginning of a book every month. And, you know, I've found now that recap or no, if the comic is good and it's well written and well drawn, I don't need a recap. I remember what's happening.
Let's not do this. This is a future episode. That is a big point of a future episode. I agree.
I think that more to come on this.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to kill your steam, but yeah, I agree.
I think it's a bit of a sign if you can remember what you read. That's equally related to how much you're enjoying the book.
I think you're right.
Maybe.
I think you're right.
Well, we can peel back the layers of that onion at a future.
Yeah.
Not today.
I just feel like I have to like. I put too much pressure on myself. I feel like I have to remember like every single detail. Like I'm amazed by those people that can read something and have that memory where they can remember everything that's happened. Like I can still remember generally like what happened after I read a couple pages, but I'm just like, Matt, you need to know everything. I don't know why I do that. Like it's a stupid quirk of me, obviously, but
we all have our things.
I do need to reread the last issue I read just to remember. But yeah,
fair enough. So I kind of want to go back at this Invincible comparison.
Okay.
Just because I know we started talking about this, I just said sort of in a general sense, like, I don't think it's the same. But I want to tell you why I don't think it's the same.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And I might be proven wrong later. But, and this isn't just you talking, and it isn't just imagecomics.com talking. I've seen this other places. I've seen it on Twitter. I've heard about it in another podcast that you made me listen to when they were talking about Radiant Black. So many people want to anoint this comic as the new Invincible. Like, Image's next Invincible is the Radiant Black / Supermassive Universe. And to me, Invincible is a comic about, you know, growing up and the meaning of family. And Mark, throughout the course of that comic, finds family in so many different places. And he learns and grows, and his worldview changes. He goes through this period of time where he got this really awful relationship with his dad. There's just so much humanity packed into this sort of innocuous looking superhero comic book. And I don't get any of that yet from Radiant Black. And I don't mean that as an insult to Radiant Black. I just don't think that it's being written with that type of intention. You know, Kirkman had a plan at the start of that comic of the type of story he was going to tell. And I just don't think this is that same type of story. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a really fun superhero universe. And like I said, maybe I'll be proven wrong at some point, but I don't feel any of that type of character growth happening.
I think I would agree with you on the point about like when you break it down like that from that lens and you take it from like the family aspect with Mark. Yeah, I agree. Like the stuff that they cover in Invincible, man, like they cover I think that, well, I don't think, I know that's why we like it so much. They cover so much, so many aspects about humanity and growing up and all that stuff. I do think maybe where they're coming through and maybe where they're coming from is how you said this in the autobiography of Kyle Higgins, like that experience of being, 20 something, 30 something, and you're just like this ne'er do well, and you have to come back home. And anyone who's lost a job has had those kind of thoughts about, am I a failure? Financial constraints and all. I think they're kind of hitting it more so from like that angle of growing up and not so much the familiar ties. Like, I think for you hearing in anything compared to Invincible, it doesn't matter. I know to never compare anything to Invincible or Books Galore ever again, because like those things mean so much to you that it's you can't top it, and that's okay. That's fine. But I think this is a pretty good superhero comic.
I'd like to think that I'm capable of removing myself from bias to have like but I just did. Like, if you remove that initial comparison where I just said like it's like it doesn't feel the same, like other than them being superhero comics, they're nothing alike. But I mean, when you really start to dig into the layers, like, yes, there's like humanity in Radiant Black, and yeah, there's some relatable stuff, but so is there in like a bunch of Marvel and DC superhero comics too. Like, you can have relatable events like job loss, moving back in with your parents, moving back to your hometown, whatever. But unless you're going to carry that plot thread throughout the series, I don't think you can start making claims like, oh, this is like Invincible.
I just got another topic idea, but
good.
I would
I'm
say
glad.
I would agree with you. I'd say yes, you're correct on that point, but I feel like those stories that, my opinion, those stories that really connect and resonate with me on that level from a Marvel and DC are the exception to the rule nowadays.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And you're right. Like, no one should ever come at me and say this is like Invincible, because I'm already like, you'll never.
you're like a cat on edge, like you're already about to bounce.
I have an Invincible tattoo.
Yeah, you're committed.
I'm in very deep, and I've had the Invincible tattoo for a very long time.
I feel like you need to get like established on it, like established when you got that. Like, I'm not a Johnny Come Lately around here. Like, that's what
I mean. This is like a. I think I was still living in Erie when I got that tattoo.
Oh, you were definitely living in Erie, and like I had some of my advisees came up when we started talking comics, and like I started talking about Invincible in our relationship, and I feel like this girl, like, you opened one of our episodes, or like, welcome to the slaughter. Like, she came in here and had no idea what she was getting herself into. Because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm not a Johnny Come Lately. Like, I saw Invincible. Like, I got issues in my basement over here. So like, we're in this to win this. So
absolutely. Will I ever get a Radiant Black tattoo? Who knows?
Who knows, man? I might get
probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
But you never know. You never know. You know what? When I fell in love with Invincible very, very quickly. Admittedly, one issue I was hooked. But
okay.
If Radiant Black goes 144 issues,
you brought up a good point. Yep.
Who knows? Maybe it is the next great superhero comic. I don't know, but I'm interested in finding out. I'm enjoying it enough to stick with it and find out, and maybe be proven wrong even more so than I already have been.
I mean, even if it's just an enjoyable comic to read and it doesn't come near Invincible, like, we'll always have Invincible. So like, I'm good. Like,
yeah, I can reread Invincible once a year and be extremely happy.
Hopefully we revisit maybe Invincible later down the line, but poor Radiant
I would love to do another reread and talk about it on this podcast. I would love to do each volume.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
One at a time, and do 24, 25 episodes about Invincible. I could do 2 episodes per volume if you really want me to. We could make this an Invincible podcast.
I don't know. It's up to us.
There's already a few of those. I don't want to compete.
There are.
Let's just stick with the variety format of talking about whatever we want whenever we want to.
for sure. But
So
I
hey,
don't
this
know,
was I'm
yeah.
glad you got me back on Radiant Black. Or at least stuck with me long enough to see the fruits of your labor. You were right. I was wrong.
No, I'm glad you picked up that super massive. Can we just talk about that too? Like, why did you
Yeah,
pick
sure.
that up even? Like, if you weren't super interested, like, why did you get that?
Connected superhero.
Okay.
They were
Okay.
like, we've got this new character, Rogue Sun. I read about Rogue Sun. I thought it was a really cool concept. They were like, oh, well, we're going to debut in this one shot where we introduce another character. Radiant Black is in it. And I was like, you know, $3.80.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'll give it a try. I pre-ordered that and Rogue Sun at the same time. And I was like, well, let's jump in. And I had no intention of getting back on Radiant Black. But the way that Marshall as Radiant Black was written in the one shot, the way he interacted with Rogue Sun, sort of the Inferno Girl angle of her, she's like from the future or whatever. Like there was enough new stuff to explore, and the new characters were really interesting. I was back in. Doesn't take much to hook me. It doesn't take much to lose me either. I'm a fickle creature. I'm out as fast as I'm in.
Always ride the whole arc. Always stay with. Well, that's I think excited. Well, I'm ready to read Radiant Black now. I'm out. No, no, I feel like I need to. I
And
need
I'm
to get
definitely
caught up.
gonna when before I go to bed tonight, I'm gonna be finishing up volume 2 of the trade. Like it's downstairs waiting for me. Well, it's
That's
not. I
good.
mean, it's on my iPad waiting for me. Unfortunately, I bought it on Comicsology. Rest in
No,
peace.
yeah, there's some good stuff there. So I'm curious to see what your kind of thoughts are. Is the Radiant Red out? I didn't pick it up. Just I didn't love the art, so I didn't grab it. But
Issue 5 comes out in July.
okay.
So
Well,
the first 2 issues are out.
I'll read it digitally then and see if I like it.
I'm getting it on paper. I've surpassed you now.
The father becomes the son becomes the father.
Get on my level, man.
That's Jor-El, by the way. That's a Superman quote. Just
I never. I'll edit that out before I publish the episode. I don't want that up in here. I mean, if I'm in on something like collecting wise, like I'll buy it. I'll buy all of it in paper. Like I'm
yeah.
so into Supermassive and what they're doing right now. I'll buy it all in paper. They got me. They got me until they lose me. How it works. It's how it works around here.
Good.
I think that's a great segue into wrapping this bad boy up. What you think? All right. So to recap, Radiant Black, it's a fantastic superhero comic. There's no other way to say it. It really, if you like superhero stuff, you don't like what Marvel and DC are putting out, read this comic because there's probably nothing else better that Image is putting out in the superhero world right now. There might be some stuff that's comparable, but I think this is probably the best thing on the roster right now. Don't even talk about Spawn. Todd McFarlane decided like 8 months ago he wanted to have Spawn be a superhero book and just flipped the script on it. Like, whatever, man. You're not going to get me on 4 books a month. Nice try. Not today. Not today, Satan.
This kind of Venom audience is what I heard from him about Radiant Black. I just want you to remember that. We got receipts, though. We got receipts.
I don't know. Save this audio. Use it against me later. I'm fine. I own a couple hundred issues of Spawn. I went out AWOL as soon as it was 4 books a month, and it's just a superhero comic now. I don't want to read Spawn as a superhero. It wasn't for me. But thank you for sticking with me on this one and for getting me to read this. You were right. I was wrong. Say it again.
This is like the most definitive victory I think I've ever had against you in my entire life, and that means a lot. I appreciate you being the bigger man here.
My pleasure.
As someone who's had to do a lot of apologizing, I appreciate you.
Oh, come on. Come on now. That's fake. That's false. That's not real. That's not real. I hope everyone has a great week in between episodes. We appreciate you listening or watching. We post new episodes on YouTube and all audio platforms every Wednesday. We also post content on TikTok Mondays and Fridays. If you'd like to check any of that out, it's Black and White Pod on TikTok. Like, subscribe, follow, rate us 5 stars. I don't know, whatever. Just help out our interactions, y'all. Bye.
Bye.